Hi, this is Diane Chapman, and I am currently working on modifying a police canine. I cannot show you the entire picture because it's a surprise, but this will eventually be a pillow from my Canine Hero Pillow project, which you can find on Facebook. So I'm in the Premiere Plus embroidery software, and I'm in the modify module, which if you have the full version, you can find the modify icon in the main software. So as you can tell, this is the legs of the canine, the bottom portion, and I need to, because this is a full body portrait, we have his legs, and there's open sections here between the legs, which looks great on the white satin that I embroider these on for the pillows. But as you can see, there's some jump lines, and although they're probably all just jumps, when they're this tiny, they're nearly impossible to clip out with scissors. Trust me, I've tried. So I'm going to show you how I can go in and get rid of these little buggers. I'm going to zoom in, and this whole section here should be open. So I can go to home and choose free select or the box or point to point or stitch. And I'm just going to see if I can circle these guys and clip them out. And that didn't work because it took the whole picture. So I hit Control Z, which is undo, and I'm going to go into modify and use the insert trim command. When I first came in here, I clicked on view and I turned off the commands so I didn't have a million trim markers on. And if I were to zoom out so you could see the whole thing, it would be covered with these little guys. But now that I'm zoomed in, they're not so terrible. And I can't zoom out to show you that because then you'd see the whole canine, and I'd be afraid that the recipient might eventually see this. So I'm going to go into modify. I've got insert trim command turned on, and I'm going to go here and click, and that got rid of that one. Let's get rid of that one too. And here, I think I'll put another one in there. Get rid of this one. See if I can get rid of these. This is going to be difficult because there's little ones sticking out, so I'm going to zoom in even more. Nope, that's as far as I can go. As you can see down here in the lower right, I'm maxed out on my zoom view. So I'm just going to try to sneak in a couple more, and hopefully that'll get rid of them all. And one here, and let's see if I can get rid of that one, and this one, and that one, and here, and just have to keep knocking these in there until it gets rid of all these little boogers are in here. Okay, that's pretty well cleaned up. Wait, maybe. No, I'm going to leave this. In fact, I'm going to go to insert a stitch, and I'm going to grab this and add a couple more stitches here. And then I right click to stop it, and that kind of filled in that section a little bit. So now this opening, and you'll notice there's a lot of holes here. But that's because I have the canine at full size. When I add the lettering, he's going to be brought down a little bit and it'll compress. So these will be compressed in a little tighter. Now, if I didn't want them, Tango, go lay down. If I didn't want them to compress, what I would want to do is use the resize. I discovered this trick recently, and what I had done was I had a large image of a canine and I needed to make it fairly small. So I held down the control key, grabbed a corner, and just dragged it down into the size that I needed. But I didn't realize that that compressed the stitches at that time. So when it started stitching, it was so tight that it just jammed up the satin really bad. And I had to throw it out. I was really bummed out, and I had to start over, making it a little larger. I didn't understand why it got so jammed up. And after reading the manual further, I discovered if you need to resize things, you may want to use the resize button. When you click this and then hold control and grab a corner so you can keep the proportions properly and drag the size down, it will adjust the stitches. So if you had 100,000 stitches and you use the resize button and made the image smaller, you may end up with only 70,000 stitches, because it would go from 100,000 to 70,000. It would adjust the stitch count so that it would stay the same density. If you don't use the resize button and you drag it down, the density will get tighter. So if you had 100,000 stitches, it would still be 100,000 stitches, but it would be 100,000 stitches in a smaller area, which means the density would be tighter and there would not be these little gaps in the stitches. So I'm only going to bring this down a little bit, enough to get the stitches to compress a little bit. So that will tighten up these little holes here, so I won't have to modify it by bringing out my magic markers and touching up spots where white would show through on black and such like that. So again, I've got a couple of spots here and up here. This one I want to get rid of, so I go to modify, I go to trim. That automatically turns off the insert stitches. If it didn't, I could right click. You're supposed to click it again, but that didn't work. So I just right click and it gets rid of it. So I clicked there and that got rid of that one. I might have been able to cut that one because that one was pretty long and it wasn't in such a tight spot. But as long as I'm here, I might as well get rid of it. And I won't bore you with this one, but as you can see, I'm going to need to go through here and clean up this mess. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. If you have an image that you either need to resize or to trim, this is how you can do it. By the way, if you noticed a blue box jumping in and out of the video up in this area, it's because when I do go to the Home tab, it will show you the image, tiny version of it, but I don't want to let out the surprise, so I blocked that out.